Back when it was first released, Kingdom Hearts 2 had a bit of a reputation. Although it was immensely popular and met with overall positive reception, it got the reputation that I'm sure you've all heard before, mash X to win. And honestly, there was some truth to that. The game's not very difficult, and in a lot of scenarios you are able to just mash X and power through on standard mode. But speedrunning isn't just about powering through. Speedrunning isn't about the easiest way to beat the game. I want to talk about finding the most optimal way to beat the game as fast as possible while playing on a difficulty so hard it wasn't even in the original release. I want to talk about critical mode any percent and why it's one of the most amazing speedruns I've ever seen. Before I talk about the run, I need to explain a little bit about what critical mode is. You see, when the game was first released in America back in 2006, it had 3 difficulties to choose from: beginner, standard, and proud. But what some people don't know is that Square released a more complete version of Kingdom Hearts 2 called Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix back in 2007. This release added lots of new content, including a new higher difficulty, critical. Americans wouldn't see this version for 7 years until 2014 when it was finally released on the PS3 in all of its glory. But the PS3 version is plagued with really slow load times and lots of glitches. But fortunately, most of those issues were fixed on the PS4 re-release, which is now the primary version for speedruns. Among other changes, critical mode makes it so that the player takes double damage and also your health increases are cut in half, meaning your max HP bar looks like this. The thing I love about 2FM though is that this increase in difficulty could feel drastic and unfair, but they balance it with buffs. Sora starts out with a whole list of abilities. He gains way more AP, meaning he can equip more abilities in total, and he deals 1.25 times as much damage as he would on standard or proud. This means that the challenge is difficult, but you don't feel weak or slow. This means that the world record for crit is actually faster than the world record for standard or proud, and less than a minute slower than beginner. Because of the massive damage you take, one mistake can lead to death in this run. Every small misstep is going to be punished. It always has this edge of the seat feeling when playing or watching, as at any time the whole run could go up in flames from a single missed input or one late reaction. This is actually the perfect time to begin watching this run, because right now there is a race going on. A battle between Insert Logic and Nintendo866, who are in my opinion 2 of the greatest runners to ever play this game. So what is it that makes this speedrun so interesting? Well, I think it comes back to that whole thing about mash X to win. In a speedrun, that couldn't be further from the truth. 2FM has this beautiful balance to it. There are a lot of broken mechanics, believe me, but they are all broken in these very different ways. This means that there is no overwhelming option. There is no one solution for every fight, no one spell, one limit, one attack that smothers out the rest. This gives the speedrun lots of variety. Every fight has different strats, and through the nature of the RPG progression system, the strats just start getting more and more complex as you unlock more abilities, more combos, more spells, and more Keyblades. I would say that Sora has about 5 different categories of options when entering any fight: Keyblade combos, magic, limits, summons, and drive forms, each with their own pros and cons, all of which get used throughout the whole run. Let's start with Keyblade combos and magic. The best part about these 2 things is that they flow together seamlessly. The most basic combo in the game works like this: hit, hit, finisher. You can replace either hit with a Keyblade swing, or you can replace it with a spell. So it could be Keyblade Magic Keyblade, or Magic Magic Keyblade, or Keyblade Keyblade Magic. Any combination is possible, and this only gets more complex when you add more combo pluses and that free finisher plus that you get in critical. This means that combos are complex and interesting in every fight as you seamlessly switch between your spells, regular hits, then transition in aerial combos with ease. Look at this. If I wanted to, I could do a sliding dash into a magnet, into finishing leap, into an aerial combo, all with almost no downtime in between. The spells in this game are also really varied. Fire, Blizzard, and Thunder all more or less do the same thing, they're just different ways to deal damage. Cure does, well, exactly what it sounds like, but the 2 most interesting spells are Reflect and Magnet. Magnet is very simple. It creates a large magnet that sucks in enemies and deals a small amount of damage along the way. It sounds simple, but when used in combination of other attacks, it can become immensely powerful. Reflect, on the other hand, has gotten a reputation of being very overpowered, which I can understand. It's a spell that protects Sora from all damage, and it creates small orbs that deal damage in return. It's the most powerful spell that also makes you invincible and takes almost no MP at all to use. But I think there are 3 things that stop it from being a poorly designed spell. 1, it's defensive. It needs to be used as a reaction. 2, it has a combo limit, meaning that you can't stay hidden forever. And 3, It's just so damn satisfying to use. I mean, yeah, it's powerful, but it makes the player feel powerful in a good way. It feels amazing to see bosses' health bars be obliterated, especially in a speedrun. One of the most powerful options in the game is limits. Every single party member in the game has a limit, and Donald and Goofy both have two. Each one is unique and has certain uses. Mulan's is used to deal a lot of damage to large groups, Jax creates a spiral that pulls in the Heartless, I could go on and on, but the real star of the show is Donald's final limit, Duck Flare. Duck Flare is simple. You activate it and Donald summons a shit ton amount of rockets that do frankly a ridiculous amount of damage. This limit is incredibly powerful because 1, it does a crap ton of damage, 2, it's Donald's ability so it can be used in every single world, 3, you're invincible the entire time it's happening, and 4, Sora is able to act independently while the limit is going on. All of this together is really powerful, and it may even sound too powerful, but it does have its weaknesses. For example, any fight without Donald, Duck Flare can't be used. Second, you need to make sure Donald is alive, which if you've played this game, you know that isn't as easy as it sounds. And even when Duck Flare is used, you need to couple it with precise strategies in order to kill these bosses in the most optimal way possible. Another powerful limit is Group Trinity. This is only usable when Sora, Donald, and Goofy are all in a party together and conscious. It's used in 3 parts, Major Drive, Ultima, and Break. Break is similar to Sora's Solo Trinity, Ultima creates a ball that hits all surrounding enemies, and Major Drive causes all 3 of them to fling drive balls at any given direction. But one thing you'll notice is that none of these do any actual damage, and that's because Group Trinity works oddly. Every attack just increases the counter in the top left, then the finisher deals damage based on that number. But there is something more going on here, and that's with Ultima and Major Drive. You see, you can actually do damage with these 2 attacks. Kind of. Remember when I said Magnet does a small amount of damage when it sucks in an enemy? Well, once an enemy gets sucked in, Ultima or Major Drive can then hit that enemy out of the magnet, so that they'll get sucked back into the magnet, only to then get hit out of the magnet, and then, well, you see where this is going. This alone deals a massive amount of damage to enemies, but on top of that, this also counts for extra hits for Trinity, leading to very powerful finishers like this. And to put another layer on an already incredibly useful move, both attacks refill your drive gauge, so... Summons are something that I think no one ever touched casually, myself included, but they are insanely powerful. Chicken Little will pull in enemies, making him more or less a long-term magnet spell, which is so helpful in many worlds. Stitch will refill your MP when he feels like being helpful, or he'll just play his stupid ukulele while watching you suffer. Peter Pan is actually optional and is skipped completely, but he is a great strategy for newer players who are just learning, even though he may not be the flashiest strat. Genie is probably the most powerful and diverse summon, as he himself has 4 forms to choose from: Valor, Wisdom, Master, and Final. Unfortunately, Final is never actually unlocked during the run, even though it does have some pretty cool strats in other categories. Valor and Wisdom are both pretty similar as they're mainly used for damage. One thing I like though is that I've seen different forms used for the same fight even among top 10 runners. And then there's Master Form, which is gonna use an exploit that sounds very familiar. Yeah, you see that? It's basically the same idea as Trinity. Magnet pulls him in, Genie hits him out, Magnet pulls him in, Genie hits him out, and you keep repeating this until death. Except, this time Genie actually does damage himself. This also refills the summon gauge, giving you basically infinite Genie. But as simple as it sounds, the positioning is actually pretty precise. It's not as easy to perform as it looks. I think there is one thing that everyone who's touched this game knows. Drive forms are fucking sweet. There are 5 forms in this game, but Final Form is unlocked through random chance, and going out of your way for it is just not viable in a run, so it's not used, which is actually kind of a good thing. Because of this, there is almost no RNG tied to these forms at all in the run. Valor Form is mostly used for movement speed, but there are moments even during the final boss fights that Valor's massive strength, long combos, and low drive costs come in handy. Wisdom is also used for movement, as leveling it up gives us quick run, which is an ability we use for the rest of the game. Master can deal some absolutely insane magic damage, but the real star of the show is the Limit Form. I can make a whole video on how powerful Limit Form is. In Limit, you get access to 4 limits from Kingdom Hearts 1, and they are all super powerful. Well, strike rate isn't that good, but the other 3 are amazing. I don't want to get too technical in this video, but I think the Limit Form combos that happen in this game speak for themselves. You see, earlier I said there is no RNG tied to forms other than possibly getting Final. Some of you may have said that's bullshit, what about Anti-Form? Anti-Form is a form added to punish drive abuse in this game and will happen randomly when trying to enter any other form. This seems random, but through careful routing, you can make sure there is a 0% chance of you ever encountering anti-form, and that's because of a few things. You see, anti-form works on a point system. Every time you go into a form, you get one anti-point, and the more points you have, the more likely you are to get anti-form as seen on this chart. But this isn't the whole story. Anti-form can only be activated under certain circumstances. First, anti-form will never activate if Sora is alone in a battle. Second, anti-form will never go off if a party member is knocked out. And third, you can't go into anti-form if you're not in a battle. There are more complexities with anti-form than this, but this is just the gist of it all. So basically, knowing all of this, speedrunners have somehow figured out an optimal way to go through the entire game by both abusing dry forms and never having a single chance to get anti-form. Avoiding anti-form is not always so easy. For example, towards the end of the game, we use the Keyblade 2 becomes 1, which forces anti-form twice in a row so that we won't have to worry about it at all for the rest of the run. Maybe I'm just a nerd, but I think it's amazing how a form that never shows up once changes the routing so much. You would never know from just watching a run, but every single form change is routed out to maximize time save without needing to worry about anti-form. Now that we got all the pieces, let's talk about the immense skill needed to interconnect them all. A lot of fights look really flashy. You get to do some insanely fancy strats in this game. But these strats aren't all a bunch of flashy lights. These fights are difficult, and in order to pull them off requires a lot of technical skill. Let's look at Xigbar, which is probably my personal favorite. Let's break this down to every button I'm pressing here. First, the fight starts off as normal, but the second he fires his third clip of bullets, he needs to reload. That's when I go into Duck Flare and immediately press X to aerial dive. From here, I press square twice to do 2 horizontal slashes, then X to do a finisher. While the finisher is active, I press triangle to launch Rocket Flare, which keeps him stun locked between combos. From here, it's X again to do aerial dive, then another square to do horizontal slash. Now, while that horizontal slash is active, I press triangle to do another Rocket Flare, then X to do a finisher, then menu down to activate Mega Duck Flare, then another X to do another finisher. Then another aerial dive, aerial spiral, then an air combo. Then once I land, I immediately go into Valor to regain MP and also do a little bit of damage. Then revert and redo the same combo as before, except this time you can see it in real time. On top of just the technical skill, there is so much more that goes into this fight, like the fact that this is right after we lower our anti-point so that going Valor here doesn't give anti-form. Also, you can actually do too much damage to Xigbar, and you will push him past an HP barrier that will force him into a lengthy and dangerous desperation move, or DM for short. All of these fights are meticulously routed to avoid these DMs, and any mistake will cause one. Too much damage? DM. Not enough damage? DM. Dropped inputs? DM. Bad positioning? DM. And this isn't the only fight like this as well. So many of these fights have these super flashy and incredibly technical strats, especially once you start getting to the end of the game. The final world is basically a boss rush of the hardest, most technical fights in the entire run. And you can't just learn a fight once and expect to win. The run is almost 3 hours long. It will never go perfectly. Enemies act differently and mistakes are going to be made. All of the options I laid out for you are at your disposal, and you need to both have the knowledge and the skill to react to every situation no matter what is thrown at you. Improvisation is what separates good runners from great runners. This run is incredible. The immense amount of options, the high technical skill, the wealth of knowledge and depth of the gameplay. And as a viewer, you get to see the fights that are just as flashy and full of swag strats as they are intense and require laser point precision. This run combines everything that makes speedrunning exciting and thrilling and one of my greatest passions. I used critical mode as an example today, but all of these strats apply to every category of the game as well. So hopefully I've convinced you why Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix is one of the greatest speedruns out there. As of writing this video, Nintendo has the world record with a 2:51:48.
The fucking best of all time, man.
As of writing this video, Logic has the world record with a 2:51:28.
We got it. Oh shit. Yes.
As of writing this video, Nintendo has the world record with a 2:50.
Oh my god.
Oh, He beat it again. Right now might actually be one of the best times ever to watch this category. Nintendo has the world record as of this moment, but as I'm writing, Logic is on the grind, ready to steal it at any moment. Not to mention that if Logic gets world record, he will then have 4 of the 5 any% world records. Now is the time to watch the greatest runners battle it out. And if you are watching this long after the video has come out, there are still tons of runners grinding it out right now, I'm sure of it. Kingdom Hearts 2 has been out for 15 years, and its dedicated and passionate runners have kept it alive and thriving. I've been using Nintendo and Logic as examples because they are the top 2 runners, but there are no shortage of amazing runners of this game, grinding hard to push their times down with new runners joining every single day. That's all for today, and thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, or if you have any questions on how to start running Kingdom Hearts, please let me know. I'd really like to thank both Nintendo and Logic for letting me use their footage, as well as helping me with some of the fact checking in this video. They are both amazing, and you should really check them both out on Twitch. Both of their streams are in the description down below. Also, thank you to all the other runners who let me use their footage. They are all active runners of this category, and their links are also in the description. I highly recommend following them as well. I also stream a mixture of Kingdom Hearts and Zelda speedruns over on my Twitch at twitch.tv/NicholasV538. There's a link to that as well. Thank you all so much for watching, and have a wonderful day.